Hey guys, Jonathan here to talk to you today about rotation and scoliosis and disc bulges and all that fun stuff. So go ahead, pull out a little pen and pad and get ready to have some fun, because this is a great topic and you need to understand it, odds are, if you're watching this video. So we have scoliotic patterns. Your scoliosis is a symptom. A symptom of what, you may ask? It's like, yeah, a symptom of what? Let's talk about it. So rotation is life, first of all. In order for you to ambulate yourself uprightly, all of your spinal joints must have the capacity to extend and to rotate. If they don't, you're going to have some problems. So we propel ourselves with rotation. Okay. The Greek root of scoliosis is scolios, meaning bent. Okay. Rotation in the spine is concomitantly coupled with rotation. Okay. So just so you're aware, totally normal to have this rotational pattern. That's how we're built. That's how we operate. That's how we move. That's how it works. Okay. So next thing we want to look at is we want to talk about the propulsive phase of gait. There's a few things to talk about here. I don't want to get too heady on you. I want this to be really action oriented for you so you can understand what's going on. And really the essence here is there's a few systems that your body operates on. Okay. They all work synergistically. They all work together and they require deep core sequencing to actually be functional. Okay. So your lateral system is the thing that actually creates the hip hike, which induces a rotation through the system. You have other systems that work along with the lateral system to assure it actually propels you in gait. But we're going to be focusing primarily on the lateral system here today in this talk. So lateral system contribution. You can see here in this image, right, that this person is stepping up. You can see the pelvis is elevating on one side. You can see the artist did a decent job of rendering the pelvic obliquity and a little bit of side flexion through the lumbar vertebrae. You can see that stability of the pelvis on this left side is created by a co-contraction of the gluteus medius, or the outside of the hip here, and the same side adductor. So that provides a foundation for the leg and the pelvis. And then you can hike the other hip so your leg can swing through, kind of like a door goes on a hinge. If the gluteus medius and the adductor, for reasons that we will perhaps talk about here today, not doing their job, then you're going to have a hip hike going on. It's just going to be really uncomfortable. You're going to be stuck there. It's going to be compressing your back. It's going to be not very fun. So the opposite QL works synergistically with these muscles here. Okay. Pelvic obliquity should occur. That's natural. We want that. Okay. With a scoliosis, one of your lateral system works, albeit pathologically. So there's usually overactivity of the quadratus lumborum and underactivity of the gluteus medius. That's typically the presentation that you're going to see when somebody's like, "Ow, my back hurts." Okay, and they're told they have a short leg and all that stuff, which is most people, if their back hurts, they usually have a short leg. Most disc bulges are posterior lateral in nature. Not all of them. All of them are not, but a large majority are. So here you can see rotation. Okay, so this is getting to talk about like, hey, so you talked about the hip hike inducing a rotation through the system. What do you mean by that? And you said that it was normal. It's like, yeah, okay, let's talk about it. So left hip hike, and you can see that's the image here. And this would be a neutral spine here, right? This is where if somebody measures your spine, that's something I do, is I measure people's spines and hips to identify what's going on in their rotation, and so that we can balance it all out. Essentially, we have to look for each individual's pattern, right? And there's not many options that it can be. It's only a few. The spine moves as a unit. So when that left hip hikes, you get right lumbar rotation, okay? Right lumbar rotation is coupled with the right arm coming forward, okay? The right arm coming forward is coupled with a little bit of elevation of that shoulder, okay? that elevation and that opposite hip hike equals side bending of the cervical spine to the right. So when your left leg comes forward in gait, that hip hikes up, the right arm swings through, and the head counter rotates into the arm swing as it comes across. All right, so that's what you're seeing here. And next slide, we're going to actually see an x-ray of that. So this woman is walking. So what you're seeing here is a left hip hike. She's in the propulsive phase of gait. So if you went back to the lateral system image and you looked at as someone walks or they step forward or step up onto something, that hip hikes. So you can see her left leg is coming forward. She's basing on her right hip. Her right arm is coming forward and her left arm is going back. You can see the torsion through the ribs and through the spine. This is normal. This is natural. This is walking. This is how your body is actually designed to operate. Okay. So when you throw a ball, this scoliotic pattern is active. And if for some reason you're unable to move into both sides of the scoliosis, you get stuck and you start wearing out discs. Okay. So if you get stuck in this pattern because your left hip abductors, your left gluteus medius isn't firing, you will get stuck here. And if you get stuck here, you're going to start to wear out the same part of the disc. The disc is meant to accept load from all these different angles. But if you are, and this brings us to our next slide, if you are actually in a right hip hike, so you saw the image for a left hip hike, and we have this image here, and it's for a right hip hike. Okay, so you see this healthy disc here. You see disc degeneration here. So this is actually what occurs with a right hip hike. You're going to start pushing the little jelly and that little jelly donut out to the left. Okay. And if you keep loading it because you can't access your right hip to get that hip back up to even those hips back out and start restoring this, you're just stuck here in everything you do. You're going to be wearing out backwards and to the side this disc, and that disc will over time, this donut piece, see the jelly inside, right? And the donut on the outside, that donut will actually get worn and more worn. And the more worn it gets, the more this jelly stuff starts to protrude out. So you can see with prolapse, you're really close. There's a big old bulge and you're really actually getting some jelly donut that's really making its way through that disc, okay? Now, this isn't a good place to be, but this is a bad place to be, and this is a really bad place to be. So you want to catch it here before it proceeds to these places, okay? Now, what we'll say here is it's really simple to take care of this. You just have to rebalance the spine. You have to take the pressure that's causing that disc to be pushed into that annulus fibrosus, or the outer ring of the donut. You have to take that pressure off by restoring hip balance, I guess you could say. You get the obliquity out of there. So if you have a right hip hike or a left hip hike, you got to get them level, or teach them how to go the other way to actually allow that annulus fibrosus the opportunity to heal, so that there's no more jelly being squeezed through the little micro tears that are occurring due to, how long faulty loading has been present due to being stuck in one phase of gait or being stuck in one hip hike. So here was what we have written here. This took a little bit of energy to actually put together, so I'm going to read what I wrote. I hope you don't mind. Discs will repeatedly be exposed to excessive compression, torsion, and shear forces that will wear out the edge of the disc, creating hot, burning spinal pain when the jelly inside the donut bulges out due to little tears that occurred from that disc being loaded repeatedly in that same manner. So somebody got stuck in that hip hike, load, load, load. Every step they take, every move they make, they're stuck in that hip hike because the hips are not working. And you're like, okay, well, how do you restore the function of the lateral system? It's like, good question, because you have to do that. You have to restore the function to these sling systems in order to take the pressure off of that disc. To centralize the disc, you have to normalize the spinal position, okay? The word is centralization. So what's the fix? So a comprehensive orthopedic assessment done virtually or in person. It can be done both ways. I'm really good at my job. So, I mean, not to gloat. I'm very confident in my skill set based on past experience. So can be done virtually or in person. Now, you have to also look at deep core function, okay? Because remember, we said the sling systems can't operate properly without the deep core. So that's always step one, restoring the deep core after your orthopedic assessment to determine your hip hike, whether you have too much curve in your low back or not enough curve. So we also want to look at, you have 1, 2, 3, and then restoring sling system function. So now that the deep core actually works, that takes usually by itself 4 to 6 weeks, depending on who you are, restoring sling system function. So your lateral system, your posterior oblique sling system, etc., we have to actually restore that function to balance the spinal position so that you're no longer having that posterior lateral pressure on the disc, or just posterior pressure. And then less than 1% of all disc bulges are actually forward. So usually you're dealing with a posterior lateral disc bulge. Usually, sometimes it can manifest as just straight posterior, which is even easier to fix. But again, step 1, step 2, step 3, and then step 4, building strength and balance in the sling systems. It's super important, because now that you've actually restored neurological connection and control of the slings, now we actually have to rebuild, strength in the system. Remembering that the body migrates to the position of strength. So we actually have to get strong and functional. So we restore function and then we build strength. Now, the last step of the formula here, and you can see down here at the bottom, flexibility, stability, strength, and performance. That is the 1, 2, 3, 4 success formula. The last piece of that, the performance phase, and you can see here, flexibility is done through stretching, obviously, based on your spinal and hip height presentation, right? Then you look at stability. So you restore deep core function, and then you're going to build some strength on top of that by giving yourself some exercises to target those sling systems. And then we're going to be looking at performance. So you can see step 5 here, learning to maintain mechanics during unilateral movement, during increased lever arms, which puts more torque on joints, during dynamic movement with a change of center of gravity, increased speeds of movement, and reduced bases of support. So that's the success formula: flexibility, stability, strength, and power. I know this is a lot coming at you all at once, like drinking through a fire hose, but there's a reason that you're not better right now. And it's because you don't know any of this. Likely, you might know some of it depending on where you are on your pain journey, but this is the 1, 2, 3, 4. If you want to get better, you must follow the sequence. If you skip a step in the sequence, you will not get better. You might get marginally better, like for a short period of time, like you see a PT or a chiropractor, he puts you back in alignment, or they strengthen something. But if you overlook the deep core, it won't stick. If you don't restore balance to the sling systems, it won't stick. If you don't build strength on that, it won't stick. And if you don't progress all the way through performance level loads, you will still end up with pain, unfortunately. So, after you've gone through the success formula, you then get to enjoy your life as a human with a restored body, which is fantastic. That's what we want, right? So what does that journey actually look like? Twice a week, virtual or in-person meetups with me, okay? Nightly stretching based on spinal presentation to normalize posture. 16-week progression following the success formula: flexibility, stability, strength, performance, okay? And will this work for you? I mean, let's look at the track record here. So first thing that I wrote here is one of my clients I had a few years ago who was 28. He had 5 bulging discs in his low back and 2 in his neck. He was told by a surgeon not to bother with PT because no one could help. After 16 weeks of rehab, there was a full return to function, and the guy actually power cleaned 275 pounds without any pain. And so this is a guy who was told by his PT or his surgeon not to, like, he's like, don't even bother. And I do agree, most people would not have been able to help. So second here, we have 48-year-old with a 25-degree scoliotic pelvic rotation, which is tremendous. That's a very significant rotation. At the end of the 20 weeks of rehab, there was no pain in the shoulder, neck, or low back, and a full return to function without pain. So skiing, hiking, etc. 50-year-old extra lumbar vertebrae with a fusion, so L6, S1 fused. Full return to function without pain after 20 weeks. So golf, weightlifting, and skiing. 65-year-old with 3 failed fusions, fused from L4 to S2. In 12 weeks, full return to function as a secretary with pain-free status. So will this work for you? Yes, probably. More than likely, yes. So how can you get a hold of me? PM me through Facebook, email me there at my email address, or this is my Google Voice because I don't want my phone blowing up with strangers on the internet calling me. So leave me shoot me a text there, or give me a call there. I might have an opportunity to answer. I don't know. But I hope you got a lot out of this, and I hope this really clears things up for you. And just a final note, I want to add that, like, if you've seen a lot of chiropractors and you've done your PT and you've seen massage therapists and you're getting like temporary relief, don't lose hope, because the reason it's not lasting is because they're overlooking a piece in this formula. Okay, so give me a shout, talk to me. You can get better, and I look forward to hearing from all of you. See you later.